Welcome, Greebs and Dweebs, to the Angry Bird Pod Show. My name is Kyle. Matt is over there. Actually, times two today. There's two Matts. And yeah, we're going to talk about stuff and have a good time. By the way, for anyone listening, actually for one person specific who's listening, that intro is done by my buddy Magnus. So he submitted a intro, and that was the first intro that was submitted by someone else. Awesome. And that's pretty interesting, I think.
Community's getting involved.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was separate, like outside of that, he texted me, but at least it was still technically the community. Yeah. Anyway, welcome, Matt Bruce.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. This was kind of set up by Matt Parrish, that one. And when I noticed that it was another Matt on the podcast, I was like, I cannot get away from Matts. And we were just discussing this, and I think that either Matt's like me or I like Matt's that I'm unaware of. So I guess I have to add another one to the list.
Kyle and Matt's just seem like they're just... Yeah,
peas.
Exactly. You know
Three
what I mean?
peas.
Do you know if I know any Kyles? Yeah,
I was just going to ask.
Matts,
Nothing?
Actually, I don't think I know any Matts or any Kyles at all.
Oh,
hi. Someone might get offended if they're watching this, and and it's a matter of Kyle that I know. But
I don't think what you said is going to be anything more offensive than I'm sure we've said in the past. So I think you're probably in the clear.
Yeah. Your website is up beside me, and it's scrolling through pictures, and I'm a huge vultures fan, and I love the colony of black vultures. That's awesome. One of the ones. Yeah. When I was in Florida last year, I got to see them for my first time. They were technically wild, even though they were in Disney, so that didn't count. They were just there.
Yeah, they're funny. They can, they tend to gravitate to tourist areas, I think. I think maybe they've learned to sort of clean up after people or what have you. There's, it's actually funny, down in the Everglades National Park, there used to be a group of black vultures that would just sit up in the trees whenever all the tourists would come in their cars. The vultures would actually come land on the cars, and they're super curious, so they would start pulling at all the rubber on the windshield wipers and the door seals and just tearing everything to bits. So the rangers there would have to put tarps over everybody's cars. So whenever you pull up, the rangers would just help people cover up the cars with tarps. We got there before the park actually opened and found out the hard way. And we had our kayaks up on top of the truck. And we came back after our walk, and there were like 3 vultures sitting up there, and it looked like they were playing banjo or something. They were like yanking on all the strings, and I had to replace the deck line on my wife's boat after that. It was kind of ridiculous, but they're super curious, cool birds. We love them.
That's awesome. We occasionally get 1 or 2 kind of in the southern end of Ontario where I think they follow the turkey vultures back up here in the spring. And they'll just be like, where are we going? And then there'll be like eBird posts and rare bird sighting posts on stuff.
Yeah, I was about to ask if you guys got them, but I guess it's just kind of a uncommon occurrence like that.
Yeah.
We get turkey and black. They're both super common here.
Yeah.
You guys, turkey vultures are common up there, right?
Oh yeah. There's a ton in the summer.
They're my first sign of spring.
Yeah, first sign of spring. Yeah, actually, when I drive down, typically like in March to Florida, the start of March, we intercept them right around West Virginia and Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So they're already kind of working their way up into that region.
Yeah, I guess they are more of a tropical and subtropical bird. They're all the way down through Mexico and into at least the northern part of South America too. And I know I've seen them in quite a few spots down there. But if you go much farther south than like Peru, I don't think I've seen them down beyond that.
That's cool. A fun thing, a couple years ago, I started noticing, I was out for a walk, and I think it was early March or mid-March. It was, I think, the 15th, if I remember right. And I was just at a local spot, and I think I was looking for hooded mergansers, and I looked up and I saw a big flock of turkey vultures, and I was like, oh, it's the first turkey vultures of the year. And then that night I went home. I don't live too far away from where I was, and the neighbor, like behind our house, there was a bunch of huge pine trees, and there was like 30 or 40 turkey vultures just all in there. And I'm wondering if it was the same group. The next year I saw the same literally on the same day, I saw my first group of a huge group of turkey vultures again. And I was like, can you set your watch to these guys? Like, it was March 15th, 2 years in a row that the first time I saw them. I thought that was pretty cool.
I have heard some stuff similar to that where they're within, like, not just those birds, but birds in general, regularly right around 1 to 3 days every calendar year. You'll see them return right in that around that same time, regardless of what trends the weather is, regardless how long winter or fall holds on. Like, it just seems that they do have that internal clock, and it's within that week every year.
Yeah, I think it's triggered more by day length than anything. So
I would
yeah,
agree with that.
yeah, daylight, is kind of rules all in that case, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And if
Now,
that starts
I
changing,
think
we're all screwed.
weather, I would say we've got bluebirds and we have cameras inside the bluebird houses, so we have good documentation of when they start nesting and just like building a nest and like cleaning up the nest box, and versus when they actually go to lay eggs. And it seems like anytime there's sort of warm spring-like weather, even if it's November, December, they'll start messing with the nest boxes. I think that is more weather-driven, but the actual timing of when they lay the eggs seems to be within 1 or 2 days every year of the same date, and that seems pretty consistent.
Are they still the Easterns down there? The Eastern bluebirds?
Yeah, Eastern bluebird.
Right on. Yeah, well, I like watching them in the spring here. I like watching them in the spring here, wrestling over territory with like tree swallows and barn swallows and stuff. There's nest boxes in a couple fields around here, and you'll see them both like going into the same hole, and like until one of them wins. I don't know when they determine what's a win, but it's cool to watch.
Oh, cool.
It's a cool interaction.
We've had them. We've got purple martin houses here. Do those guys breed up where you guys live?
They do. They do.
Okay. Yeah, we've got purple martin houses here in the yard, and they breed in them every year. But sometimes we'll get bluebirds that try to take up residence, and it's usually before the purple martins get started, and then the martins will kick them out.
Yeah, I think that's a similar thing we have with the house sparrows, is they try to keep them boarded up long enough so that the eastern bluebirds can kind of get on territory before they take them all.
Yeah,
it's a big issue.
They have little they're literally boarded up like little disheveled apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And then
and then once the more and more of them show up, they'll slide it out of the way, and there's still the battle, but at least it's more of a fair fight than them already being on a nest.
Definitely, yeah. But I've been lucky here in the yard. We don't get starlings. We don't get house sparrows. The only thing that really competes with our martins is the bluebirds, and at least that's a native species. They mostly actually stick to their own designated houses, because these things are built to the shape and size that are supposed to be attractive to the species. So they mostly stick to that, but sometimes they stray from that a little bit.
Yeah, you have a lot more species down there that are interested in eating them and stuff too, aren't they? Like we'll have like mink and stuff like that you'll see. We'll kind of grab at them and stuff like that. But I find Florida probably has a few more critters on the ground and stuff that might be interested in snagging up some babies.
We have the yellow rat snakes are the biggest problem here in the yard. A baffle normally does the trick for that. If it's on, I've got one of my nest boxes that's on a post, and I have a baffle for that. And then the other one, some of them are mounted to like the side of a barn or something like that. You can't put a baffle on that as easily. But the main problem we have, believe it or not, is ants. We've got these invasive red fire ants. And if you've spent any time in Florida and walked through the grass barefoot, you would have discovered them because they are very quick to sting, super annoying. Usually if you're from up north and you're not used to them, you'll like if you step on one barefoot and it stings you, you'll swell up a little bit. I'm totally used to it because I get in the summertime, a dozen stings a day sometimes if I'm doing yard work out there. But the fire ants will actually climb up any height that you put the box, and they will go in and they will just strip the little babies down to bones. It's pretty graphic.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're invasive, so it's something that shouldn't be happening, but it is.
I feel like 50% of the animals down there are invasive.
Yeah, a lot of them are. We've got something like, I think in Florida, I don't know the numbers, but I think the number of invasive reptiles and amphibians is greater than the variety of native ones we have. Now, most of those are down in South Florida. I don't see
Hmm.
most of those. The frost line, if you will, which would maybe run, somewhere south of Orlando, places that regularly get freezing temperatures. That
Hmm.
acts as somewhat of a barrier because so many of the species that are imported and become established in South Florida, they're tropical species. They all come from the pet trade
Hmm.
originally, and those tend to be colorful species, things that tend to be found in the tropics. So when you introduce them to Florida, South Florida makes a great home for them. I mean, I don't want them here, but it's the climate, is appropriate for them. But that frost line sort of keeps them south of Orlando for the most part. Most of those species. Most of the birds too are tropical species. We have a number of non-native birds that have established, parrots and things like monk parakeets and Nande parakeets. Quite a few, but most of them stay south of us as well.
Crazy. Yeah, I used to watch this YouTube video of this guy. He would just catch like, I used to be into aquariums, and he would just pull like cool aquarium fish regularly out of like ditches in like the South Florida Everglades and stuff. And that was crazy, just seeing stuff from Africa,
Yeah.
stuff from Asia, just like chilling.
Yes, it's not good.
No, you don't want them there for sure.
It's not good. It's such a hub for exotic pets too, I think. A lot of stuff gets imported into South Florida. And people they get like a tegu or something, and it's
Hmm.
this big, and then you have it for a year or two, and it's bigger than your cat, and then you don't know what to do with it, and it's getting into trouble, so people just put it outside.
That's another hobby I was into, was reptiles. And my friend bred ball pythons, and at one reptile show I helped sell them. And we were down the aisle from a place that was selling sulcata tortoises. Do you know what a sulcata tortoise is?
No.
It's like the third largest tortoise species on Earth. They get like a couple 100 pounds in like footstool or size, like
Oh wow.
massive. But you'd buy them at like baseball size. And like this, I watched like a mom and a little boy buy like a whole setup. And like after they paid, they were like on the way out. She asked like, how big did they get? And he was like showed her. She was like, what? Like,
At least he was honest. A lot of the
Yeah.
time they won't tell you, and they'll sell you something that's tiny and it gets huge and you didn't expect it.
Yeah, we had that happen. We bought a rabbit a couple of years ago, and we thought it was just this tiny little thing, and then we found out it was some big blop style bunny,
Oh
and it was
wow.
the size of a small dog.
Yeah, some of those meat breeds get to be huge.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a 15-pound bunny.
meat breed was what they called me in high school.
It's interesting that you brought up the frost line, and now I'm kind of thinking of two different sections of Florida. I've always heard that Florida, and experienced it myself, being Orlando or south typically, that Florida is for photography cheat mode. Do you find the north to be as cheat mode, or is it
No, not
different?
at all. It kind of depends. It depends. For a few years, we had snail kites that had
Okay.
moved in. We've got right here in Gainesville. We've got. I'm in Gainesville, Florida, so that's north central Florida,
Hmm.
and we've got Paynes Prairie. That's kind of our claim to fame as far as things that nature-oriented people would want to come see. And it's just a big wet prairie. It'll flood pretty regularly, turn into a lake, and then it'll dry out for a few years and be mostly grasses, but still pretty wet. But there are invasive apple snails. This is actually an example of an invasive that's done something good,
Hmm.
because snail kites weren't doing super well. But these invasive snail kites started making their way throughout the state and actually throughout the southeast. And the snail kites started showing up in droves. We would get, I mean, you might see 8 or 10, in just one view. If you're looking out over the prairie, and we had some really incredible opportunities where you could get minimum focus distance from these guys. You could sit there and watch them pluck snails up out of the water all day, and so that was kind of like cheat mode. but that didn't last too long. Most of the stuff around where I am, you've got to work for it. Especially if you don't go to the coast. Like it's an hour and a half east and it's an hour and a half west for me to
Right.
get to a coast. I'm
Right.
pretty much I'm not like directly in the center of the state, but driving time wise, I pretty much am. The coasts are a lot better, just like anywhere. If you want to actually go to a place and know for sure you're going to have a subject, going to a shoreline usually is a pretty good bet. As far as here in the interior of the state, yeah, definitely not. There are, we have, prothonotary warblers will nest in our swamps and stuff in the springtime. There's a lot of good opportunities there. But yeah, it's not like some of those down in South Florida. There are all these like man-made wetlands that water treatment companies and city utilities will set up these wetlands, and you'll get all kinds of roseate spoonbills and stuff that go and nest in those or hang out in those, and you get super close to some of those wading birds and stuff. Up here, not so much.
That's awesome. We had speaking of migrants and vagrants earlier, we had I think there was one roseate spoonbill that ended up here. And
Yeah,
it
we
was
did.
Oh, wow.
yeah, and everyone's like, "What?" Like that's not
Yeah,
supposed to
I
be.
think they're normally about South Carolina. It's about as north as they normally go.
Yeah.
And I think we had a glossy ibis a couple years ago too.
Yep. And a little blue heron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
non-breeding.
Yeah.
I think
Do
it
you
happened.
guys get white-faced?
I don't think well, I mean maybe, but not since I've been
Not really.
looking
Yeah. You
into
get
it.
white ibis? Any ibises at all?
Not really. No.
Oh,
No, just that glossy, right? It was a glossy.
Yeah, it was like by itself in like a not a drainage ditch, but almost a drainage ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happens, like we had a scissor-tailed kite up here a couple years ago, and the thought behind that one was there was a big storm that had come up the coast, and a lot of people thought it kind of got blown up or like lost its way, just kind of riding the storm. And I imagine that's
swallow-tailed kite?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you said scissor-tailed. I didn't know if
Oh,
you meant, like,
sorry.
scissor-tailed flycatcher.
We had
or
one of those, too.
swallow-tailed kite.
We did have one of
okay.
those. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But it,
Swallowtail kite. You're right. Thank you.
yes.
And yeah, the thought was that it just ended up on some like weird weather patterns and just got blown up here, but it was talk of the town for a couple weeks for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go see
I
them.
don't know if you guys got flamingos after one of those hurricanes, but they came real close if they didn't quite make it to you guys. They were, I think, up to Michigan or Ohio.
Wow.
They got pretty close.
That's
That'd be
wild.
wild. That would be wild.
That's why I want to go to that Fort DeSoto. I want to go see those in March. I still
Oh,
haven't
there's
made
some
it
there.
over.
I was just down there in, I don't know when it was. It was
Yeah, I was looking at your
November.
blog
I think it
here.
was the middle of November. On the blog, those flamingos were Everglades National Park, way down at the southern point of the state. I just went to Fort DeSoto. I don't often do any research at all before I go to a spot. Like that one, I didn't anyway. And so if there are flamingos at Fort DeSoto, I'm not aware of it, but that by no means means that there aren't.
eBird suggests there are, and they are there from about November to April. I don't know
cool.
if that's a hot spot to go for them, like the Everglades would be. But I do know
Yeah.
that they have been seen there and with photos.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that's
it's a shot.
tough to say. We don't have enough information to really know what to expect, because that hurricane was only like 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's where the birds came from.
Right.
Most of those birds that ended up in like Pennsylvania, Ohio, along the Gulf Coast, they made their way kind of down to Florida and like I think the Gulf Coast of Texas and a few spots. But they seem pretty nomadic to me. I think they just kind of follow the food sources up and down the coasts, and they'll move a pretty good distance from one day to the next unless they're breeding. But if they're just non-breeding, they'll just kind of move around, and they're hard to predict, at least from what I gather.
Right.
That's cool.
So don't get my hopes up.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be there. You have to be there to find out. But
Yeah, I saw them in the Everglades and had no expectations of seeing them. We paddled out there and ended up running into a flock of 49 of them, which is huge. That was just about half the population that's suspected to be in the state anyway.
The cover photo that you have, are there more flamingos flying in the background there beyond the, like in front of the
Let me pull
clouds?
it up because I don't remember.
It's a low perspective. You got a bunch of them kind of just wading in the waters, but I see four flying
Okay.
in the background.
Okay, I think those are something else.
Okay.
The light that was like right at sunset, so the light was kind of those pinks and
Yep.
oranges and stuff. So I
Yep.
think those are probably great egrets or
Okay.
ibises or something that's lit up. They could even be spoonbills, roseate
Okay.
spoonbills.
This is wild. I'm looking at a photo of Matt. I'm assuming your wife or someone you went down with in a
Yeah,
kayak
my wife.
taking a photo of you in the water.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you see that one, Kyle? That's great. I like the
No,
behind
there's
the
so many.
scenes.
Yeah,
They're beautiful. The tones are gorgeous on these photos.
oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much always try to jump out of my kayak if I have the option because have you guys photographed from a kayak before?
Oh yes.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but for me it just drives me crazy. I've been doing it for over 20 years, but it's still I kind of hate it because any little gust of wind, any current in the
Mm,
water whatsoever, it'll put you into like a
yep.
spin, and you
Hmm.
can't. I mean, you don't even notice that if you're paddling, but if you are just sitting still and your paddle's like tucked under your arm or something, and you're trying to get lined up on a shot. You have a composition lined up in your flip screen or whatever, and then you start spinning or drifting or whatever.
Yep.
It's just infuriating. So whenever there is decently solid bottom and it's not too deep, I will just jump right out and
Yeah.
save myself the frustration.
See, that's the issue we have up here is deep, dark lakes.
Mm,
Um, if you're jumping out most of the time, we're also not going for wading birds. We're going for loons. We're going
yeah,
for, you might have some herons and obviously wading birds or something like that, but you're in the deeper water, kind of shooting them onto shore. Um,
sure.
it's a
And it's
much hot.
cold.
It's much, and it's cold. It can be definitely cold. A lot of the season, you would like to have some sort of dry suit.
Hmm.
It's
But
not
yes,
cold all the time.
I do feel your pain. I do. It does happen. You lose a lot of shots, and a lot of compositions, and some come out weak because of that. What I found does help is a more sturdy bathtub type style angling or fishing kayak.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
don't
That probably
they
compared
don't
to mine
turn. Yeah, they don't turn nearly as well, but that also means the wind doesn't affect them nearly as much either.
makes sense.
So it does allow you to kind of stay on them a little bit better, but I mean it's minuscule. It's
Sure. Yeah.
a minor
Do they have
help.
the pedals?
You can
keep your
get the
hands free?
pedals.
Yeah.
Yep. You
So
can
that
also get like an iPilot. Like you can do spot lock, and you can get yourself like a trolling motor that would keep you right exactly where
oh
you want.
sure.
But you're $4,000 or $5,000 before you're even taking a photo.
Oh geez, yeah,
Yeah.
but I've got really nice kayaks, but they're sea kayaks.
Right.
They're I don't know if you know what that looks like, but
The
they're
longer ones?
they're like 21 inches wide
Yep.
by mine's 19 feet long, so
Yep.
it's super long and narrow.
Yep.
Really great for covering distance and for speed. They track really smoothly. They'll
Hmm.
go through all kinds of high swells and winds and that kind of stuff. But
Yep.
as far as stability, when you're just sitting there, they take a bit of getting used
Oh
to.
yeah.
I try
Yeah.
not to use like my 500 f4 in the
Hmm.
kayak. I do it sometimes, but when you start putting something off the side and you're trying to keep balance and you've got like 10 or 11 pounds of camera and
Yeah.
it's a little precarious, so I
Yeah.
try to use something lighter weight on mine. You can get away with a lot more on one of those fishing style kayaks, but then if you want to cross any distance or deal with any weather or current, then that's its own obstacle.
They don't paddle nearly as nice. The one I have currently is 34 and a half inches wide. The last one I
Okay.
had was 37 inches wide. That one was literally a bathtub. It didn't paddle very well at all. It was only 10 and a half feet. My new one is 12 feet, but 34 and a half wide.
Yeah,
So
that's yeah. As a
okay.
photography platform, I think
Yes.
those shorter, wider kayaks are definitely the way to go. I'm
Hmm.
like a kayaker outside of photography, so it's just something I've been passionate about for a long, long time. And I also, I think I personally would get frustrated at having something that struggles in current and struggles in wind and high seas and that kind of stuff. So it's a trade-off either way. I think for most people that just want to use a kayak as a platform for photography, and you're not trying to really cross big lakes or anything like that, you're much better off with something like yours, something that's a bit more stable, that you can have a little more room to spread your gear around and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Sit on top.
yeah, mine just sit on top. I traditionally try to put in close to where I'm going to shoot.
Yeah, good idea.
Right. They
I
just
use
save a
mine
bit.
more as a means of transportation as much as anything. But
Right.
I've gotten used to it, in terms of photographing out of it. I just kind of hate myself the whole time.
There.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Craig went canoeing on a marsh near here a couple years ago, and it was like late October. There was bald eagles and some migrating waders and stuff we were going for. That I have like a Pelican case that I brought for my camera, and then got sort of to a point where I wanted to use it, so I reached behind me, took the camera, and then shot nothing because everything kept flying away. And as the day progressed, it started getting windier and wavier. And by the time we decided to go back to where we had put in, the waves were like fairly substantial, and I didn't feel comfortable twisting back to put the camera back in the case. So it was just like pinched between my knees, and I was trying to not like splash it when I was paddling, and like the waves were kind of not intense, like real intense, but on a canoe, they're more intense. And it was a nerve-wracking couple of minutes. So I can't imagine having a 500 f4, which is a lot more investment in that, doing the same thing. So that's crazy.
There's a lot of experience makes a big difference too on that stuff. You just become more comfortable, being on the water, and you learn your boat. Like I said, I've been kayaking a long, long time, well over 20 years, 25 years, and I'm really comfortable with it. But that said, I kind of know when to pull the camera out and when not to. And if it starts to get rough, or if I see conditions coming up that I'm worried about, I'll just stuff it in the dry bag. But yeah, a lot of it is just getting comfortable with your balance in a boat like that, and comfortable with using your gear and staying balanced when you're moving your gear around and off the side and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So there's no hanging the 500 f4 off the side of the kayak for you.
No, I do that. I do.
You do.
It's not
You must have
often.
core strength.
Mine's a sit inside. Remember that?
Yeah. So you're lower to the
actually,
surface of the water.
My forearm ends up kind of on the side of the cockpit, and then the lens foot will be in my hand.
Oh, okay.
And then so I'm able to rest it, just like that, and then the camera sits like, right at water level basically, and then I can operate it with like my right hand. I mean, it works out, and then I'm kind of leaning the opposite direction the whole time to counterbalance, but it's not ideal.
Did you ever shoot that lens and from the kayak with a DSLR? Because the back screen must be super useful with that style, right?
Yes, I've shot a lot from DSLR and kayaks, but the lower to the water stuff was much harder. There wasn't a great way to do it. I would just basically lean as far forward as I could with my chest on the deck of the boat, and I'm still not quite getting low enough. The camera ends up still 10 inches off the water when you do that. That was the best I could do with DSLR, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a game changer.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the flip screen is huge. And the autofocus, of course, that works on the flip screen, because some of the DSLRs had flip screens, but the autofocus was unusable.
You can at least trust and rely on the autofocus of the mirrorless stuff, that you're capturing a head or an eye at least.
Definitely.
I see the flamingo picture now.
That's low to the water, but now I understand why he was swimming.
Yeah.
Some of those shots were from me being in the boat, and sometimes it was from me after I jumped out.
Right.
But with that 100 to 500, that's what I normally use from the kayak. That lens, it's so easy to handle. It's only a few pounds, like 3 pounds, if that. And I'll put a camera without a grip on it too, so that that keeps it light.
Right.
I like that lens. I got to not use one for an extended period of time, but I know a couple of people with them, and I've tried to borrow it a couple times. It's a sweet lens. I like it.
Yeah, I love that lens. I think the best person that lens would be suited for would be someone who has a big prime of some kind as an option, depending on what kind of photography you're into, of course.
Hmm.
I think for a lot of people that don't have a big prime to lean on for certain situations, maybe something like a 200 to 800
That's
is a
my guy.
better option. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If I didn't have a big prime, I don't know that the 100 to 500 would be my main like
Yeah.
telephoto wildlife lens.
The two
right
the
here.
2 to 8 the 2 to 8 may be the one of the best
Lens in the
songbird-
world.
one of the best songbird lenses you could potentially buy if that's what you're into.
Yeah, especially for the price, it seems like an incredible value. I use my 500 f4 for most of my songbird stuff. The 1 to 500 works pretty. I've gotten quite a bit with the 100 to 500 as well. But yeah, the 100 to 500, I like it because it's kind of the bare minimum I need on focal length. And when I travel, I travel a fair amount. I don't want to have but one giant lens to deal with when I'm traveling. And then the 100 to 500 is kind of just enough. If something were to happen to my big lens, I still have something that gets me in the ballpark of where I need to be, and it'll get me enough reach to get, 80% of what I would have wanted to capture on a trip anyway. And it's something it's small enough too that I can throw it in a little waist bag and have it while I'm shooting my f4 lens.
Hmm. I went to Monterey, California, the year before, and I walked around the whole time with my R7 with the 100 to 400 on it. And like I was going into restaurants and I was going into buildings and stuff, and it was just on my shoulder the whole time. And it was great to walk around with that ridiculously light setup
It's
all day.
such a light setup, that thing. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's a sweet little setup.
Yeah.
I know Rain speaks highly of that.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
I think that
He still
started
has
with.
he still
Matt.
has the 1 to 4, right? But now he's added the 2 to 8. Yeah.
I'm not
think that
I'm not
sounds
sure
right.
if he's
I think he
kept
still
it
has
or not.
both. Yeah. I mean, with his hiking, like the 2 to 8, you can definitely do 10 or 12K up a mountain, but the 1 to 4 does shed a bit of weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I am a glutton for punishment, I guess. I will take the big 500 f4 up the mountain, and then I'll have like a backpack full of other lenses. It's terrible. It's
You
a
know
bad
what
habit.
you know what the 500 f4 can do, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to leave that at home and have that opportunity. And that's why in the group chat we would call you the Siggy Goat. You were the Sigma Goat. That's what that was your
Oh, my
nick. That was the
goodness.
nickname, was the Sigma Goat. Anytime we'd be
Oh,
like,
wow.
"Oh, did you see
I
Matt
am-
shot?" They go, "Who? The Siggy Goat? The goat?"
That's great. Wow.
See, I told you it wasn't a bad nickname.
I do love Sigma. Yeah, I love Sigma. I thought about I had the 150 to 600 Sport, and I love that lens. I sold it, but the main reason I sold it was because, like I said, I only want one gigantic lens to travel with, and the 100 to 500 covers most of that range, and the aperture values are mostly the same until you
Pretty
get
much.
to the very long end. And I actually liked that it zooms out a little wider. But yeah, I loved that 150 to 600, the sport version. And there's something about the art series lenses, just the way they render colors that I really like. I tend to like things that lean a little bit more cool as far as color temperature and maybe a little bit more magenta. And I feel like the Canon lenses are a little bit
Warmer.
more towards the warm and
I was
towards
going
the
to say,
green.
you should be shooting Sony.
Yeah, I do actually.
No,
I
seriously,
do,
that's not even a slam. Like
yeah,
they're a
I
little
do
cooler.
like the way the images come out on the Sony sensors too, because I feel like their sensors sort of lean that direction.
Yeah.
It's interesting you said that about the Sigma, because before I was shooting the 800 prime, the f11, and the 100 to 400 and the 2 to 8, I had the Sigma 60 to 600, and
Okay.
I switched from that to the 2 to 8 just basically because I didn't want to adapt that lens
Yeah.
anymore. But I noticed the color change when I switched, because I had the 100 to 400 and the 60 to 600 one of the days, and I was shooting grebes and terns that were fishing in this park that I like to go to. And when I looked at the pictures after, I was like, there's definitely like a difference in color here. And I hadn't thought that would have been the case with the
Now,
lens
this
before.
might be my ignorance, but like, is that maybe like different coatings used? Because like the 60 to 600 is a more premium glass, and it certainly is sharp and clean. I'm just wondering if it just changes the color casting, or like there's less like chromatic aberration going on or something
I
that's
would
giving
guess,
it
yeah.
less.
Well, I would guess that the color difference you're seeing sort of globally in the image is more from the coatings and stuff.
Yeah.
I Sigma is really great about controlling chromatic aberration, but I don't
Hmm.
think it would have anything to do with that because that's typically on high contrast edges and stuff. So
Hmm.
you'd only see it in certain little pieces of the image. Um, but yeah, I do whatever they do, whatever the magic sauce is. I appreciate it. I know that those tones maybe not be for everybody. I think more people prefer the warmer images, and it's not
Yeah.
as simple as warm versus cool. It affects the whole color wheel, you know.
Hmm.
But
I've
I like the way they look.
I have a question. Do you shoot auto white balance or do you dial in your white balance?
I dial it in.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say that I think a lot of people don't know that you can, if they're using auto white balance, you can choose whether you want it to be sort of a warmer white or a
Hmm.
true white, and that would also affect the blueness almost of the picture, like it's like ambient white or true
Like
white or something like that.
when it's
Yeah.
set to auto, you mean?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you set it to auto, but you pick one of the two
Yeah,
options.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So like that'd be another way
Mhm.
to kind of get that
I,
bluer
I
kind of
I
look.
used to do my own manual kind of white balance until I started doing wildlife, and then I just set it to auto because you could always change it after. Like, does it not make does it make a difference if you just shoot auto and you just can change it in post, or
No.
is there no? There is
Yeah.
something. Yeah, well,
No, there's no
explain
different.
it
No,
to me
there.
a little bit.
No,
Oh,
there's
there
no
is no
difference.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
just.
think there was. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the main reason you wouldn't is because if you're taking a whole series of shots under the same lighting conditions, the camera is going to make changes, sometimes pretty drastic changes
Sure.
in the white balance. And if you're trying to color grade a whole
Okay.
series of images, it's easier if you've dialed in a white balance. I like to use something in the neighborhood of 5400, 5600, something in that range.
Hmm.
I think 5600 is more typical. And I find that basically assumes that like sunlight, bright middle of the day sunlight is somewhere in that neighborhood, 5500 Kelvin, something like that. It's assuming like a true white light source. And then if it's actually blue hour and you're getting all those blue tones and stuff, I think auto white balance would try to correct that and make the whites white and the blacks black, and there would be no color cast to those things.
Okay.
But when I set it to like 5600 Kelvin, you get all those like blues and magentas and things that come at blue hour. And same would be true at golden hour.
Okay.
So I
Interesting.
find that most of the images, the white balance, I don't have to adjust it much when I just leave it set to something close to that, 5500 Kelvin mark.
Hmm.
I might try that now.
Well, I used to do that with landscape, certainly golden hour and blue hour. I used to actually set it myself because it's a lot more meticulous, right? There's not the moment isn't fleeting as much. You're setting it up, you're composing everything, you're kind of painting the picture as you're going. Whereas with wildlife, more things on auto, the less things you have to worry about, and all this, this chaos. But it is an interesting concept. I do think it's something I'll think about the next time I'm out.
Hmm. You said something a while back that I have been waiting to jump in on and try to turn back to. That you don't plan where you're gonna, or don't research the birds before you go to a location. Matt and I, other Matt, I've talked a lot about how that's something that we like to do, where we will kind of do some research of what we can expect to see, maybe to see if it's that accurate on the research we're doing, like where to go to see certain things, especially if it's a big park. Um, so is that like a conscious choice to be more surprised, or is that something that you're just kind of got in the habit of?
Well, if I'm going like internationally or to a place I've never been before and I've never seen the location, I tend to research it a little bit more,
Hmm.
quite a bit more. If I'm going to places like Fort DeSoto that I've been to maybe 3 or 4 times in the past, or any place I'm somewhat familiar with, kind of know the spots I want to go. I won't go in and dig into the latest eBird lists. I won't go look at like the rare bird sightings and look at like Facebook groups. I know a lot of people, they'll do that kind of thing to try and figure out specifically where the birds are. I honestly, I most of the places I go have no people. So
The best ones.
uh, yeah. I don't like
why he's the
having a
goat.
lot of people around, so I pretty much yeah, I've got a lot of places. That's where the kayak comes in handy because I can get to
Mhm.
some of these like islands and stuff that there's no bridges or anything to get to them. I prefer to go to those like off the beaten path places, and I
Yep.
rarely see anybody when I'm out. But yeah, if I'm traveling just like within the state and it's a place I've been to before, I usually won't do any research at all. If I'm spending money to go like travel to another country, I definitely will plan quite a bit.
I kind of like that because it kind of I've always said that the well, for me as more of a hobbyist, the the photo is kind of the cherry on top of the sundae, like being out there seeing the things where they are, kind of being surprised if something shows up is all part of the like excitement for me. Um so that's that would add to that, especially if you're not, you don't, that would add the surprise anyway if you're not knowing what's there. So but it does make sense that if you're going to
Definitely.
research, or like if you're going to
And
do some research going to somewhere you don't know, that's cool. I like that.
definitely. And I normally if I'm going to a place, I like to have a minimum of 3 days in one spot. Sometimes 4 days, sometimes longer. I find the first day, at least if I get there in the middle of the day, that first afternoon, I'm just scouting the whole time. I'm trying to figure out where the birds are hanging out and thinking about backgrounds and light angles and all of that stuff. And I barely take any photos. That's regardless of whether I've researched it or not. And then, after I've done all that scouting, I come back and I'm like, okay, I want to go photograph this bird there. And then
Mhm.
at sunset, when the light's, coming over the dunes, I'm going to go over there and try and get that other bird or whatever it is. So I find, regardless of whether I've researched or not, I'm still going to waste a day or spend it. No, it's not wasted. I'm going
Hmm.
to spend a day scouting and finding those birds myself anyway. So yeah, I don't know that there's a huge benefit to spending too many hours looking ahead of time.
I think it's definitely headspace there. Typically with Kyle and I, we only have like a day. So the more research we can do
Oh,
ahead of
sure,
time is kind of
definitely.
the couple days that you're spending there figuring it out. We got to do that at home, I think, a lot of the times. Would you
Yeah,
agree with that, Kyle?
Speed birding.
We kind of do. Like I'll go to a spot one weekend. I may not return to that spot again for a few weeks. So that's kind of going to change in its own anyway. So I'm basically like blindfolded, just throwing a dart at a board, hoping that something's there while I'm there. Um,
yeah. I can definitely see where the research would pay off in that
I
case.
think so. I don't know. Sometimes we come home empty-handed too, so I don't know if it's just luck of the draw or not. But it's
Yeah, I
typically
mean
Basically,
just kind of one days.
it
he
doesn't
sees
hurt to
things when I'm not
research.
there.
What's that? Sorry.
I was gonna say he sees things when I'm not there.
Oh, you know what? I actually was talking to a friend about this, and it's just a different mindset when you're out there by yourself versus when you're with other people because you're
Yeah.
you're having a conversation, you're chatting, you're kind of enjoying each other's company. When you're by yourself, you have nothing to do but other than just focusing on what you're doing.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I think a lot of the times you are a little more focused when you're on your own.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah,
I
I
think
get
so.
nothing. I get no photographs taken if I am out with other people. There is a spot that I'll go in town specifically if I just want to be social. I'll
Hmm.
go. I'll go and hike around with my camera, and I'm not really expecting to. I might get a photo here and there, but I just know realistically if there are other photographers and people around, I know all the birders and photographers in town, so they're always striking up conversations. It's
Sure.
hopeless for me. But sometimes if I just want to go and be social, I'll go to that park,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of just any photos I get at that point are just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It's hard to do both for sure.
It is. It is. I mean, you need it sometimes. You can't go too crazy and too hard. You need that conversation. You need that social aspect.
Sure.
You take it too serious sometimes.
I don't. I should.
No. How many times would you argue? Do you say that you go out on your own, with intent? Yeah, you, Kyle.
Uh, Probably not as often as I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of time it's funny if I'm posting a picture at work or something. A lot of people will like I'll post. I used to do the thing where I would post a bird picture on our kind of internal group thing every Friday, and people are like, "You always go out and see these birds," and then really it'd be me like one trip I'll get like a picture of something and then something else and then something else, and I'll just post them 3 weeks in a row. And people are like, "You're always going out." I'm like, "No, that was one Saturday like 3 weeks ago."
It's just archive photos.
Yeah, it's like you don't just go there and it's like, "All right, next one." Like, I come up with a memory card that I have to delete half of them because they're all garbage anyway. But there's a couple good ones in there.
I find I end up posting stuff from a shoot over like 2 years sometimes because I just don't like posting the same species in the same light,
Sure.
just different poses or
Yep.
it's just a different behavior, but it's like all the same thing. I like to mix it up a lot. So yeah, that's kind of how I do it too. I won't put them all out at once.
I have such a hard time of like still being attached to the photo after I've got it off the card and after I've already edited it. I'm done with it, so I just throw it out there and then I'm on to the next thing. I'm already mentally thinking about the next thing. I just have this
Yeah.
hard time connecting with something that I've already taken the photo of because I'm removed from the experience. I'm removed now from like the edit of it. I'm just like, hey, what's the next thing? And oh, I have this to share. Let's go. I still like I like to make sure that it's in the season. You may not have a hard time doing that, being semi one
Yeah.
season. Everything can kind of
Oh,
look
there's
similar.
no snow. It's not
Right.
so obvious here. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Whereas if I'm posting, a spruce grouse in the snow and it's July, it wasn't
Yeah.
taken then.
Yeah.
So I kind of
No,
like that.
I would feel the same way if that were applicable here.
I'm gonna
Right.
post a snowy owl in
Right.
June next year. My plan.
I mean, you could get the people going. It's promiscuous, that's for sure.
Yeah, be like, "Oh, he's still here" or something. Just make it seem like he's
Where
still
did you
out there.
see him?
Yeah.
It's like there's snow. There's snow in the background. Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't,
So I have my own kind of idiosyncrasies and why I have to unload something and be done with it. I've never sat on a photo for I think more than a couple weeks. I just get it out there and I'm on to the next thing. I'm just emotionally removed from it. I got this like separation, not even anxiety. It's like I need it to be separated so I don't get anxiety. It's the opposite, whatever that you would call that.
Yeah,
That's
I
interesting.
don't even post so much of what I shoot, honestly.
That's why you're the goat. We know. We know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not super into Instagram. It feels like it's a necessity if your hobby is photography in 2025, but I'm not super into social media. I'd rather be out there taking the photos. So
For sure.
posting them is a lower priority. And I like to show the raws and stuff, but that takes a little extra work. And if I've got a busy day, I may not go and sit down and want to put all that together and put the caption together. And
Yep.
so I don't post as often as I'd like to.
You shared one a few weeks ago, and it was of the edit and the raw, and there was no difference.
Was it the morning dove?
I think so, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
there
why?
was
There is no
literally-
difference.
Yeah, there was literally no difference. It was just for consistency.
Yep, for sure.
I edited that photo and I went back to export the raw to share that, and I'm like, I like that better.
Just
I
the raw
just,
itself.
I just when I say raw, I say unedited raw to be kind of consistent with like what Ray Hennessy does, because he kind of started that whole #authentic raw thing. So just for consistency with what a handful of other people are doing out there, I just stick with that terminology. But there really is no such thing as a raw image that you can render out. It's always got something applied to it. So what I'm sharing is exported out of the Canon software, so that it's straight out of camera, basically.
Okay.
It's out of camera JPEG.
Right.
And that seems like the truest, most like unedited image I can share. I could spit out something from Adobe, but then it's going to be with either like the Adobe standard profile for the Canon,
the color
for the
science,
camera, and then the colors aren't the same, and it looks a little weird. I don't even use that for my own edits. I could use like the whatever the default one is, and that doesn't look right either. So whenever it says unedited raw, that's really kind of more like straight out of camera JPEG, but rendered out of the Canon DPP software.
The ironic thing about like the authentic raw hashtag is the ones that are doing it are not even the culprits you would even consider that are doing it. Like you can tell with the work that there's like nothing fishy going on with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's great that you do it, but like there's a lot of accounts out there that you wish would do it for the
Sure.
transparency,
Yeah, well,
and
there's a
they're
reason
not.
why they don't.
And they're
Yeah.
not doing it. Yeah. Guilty maybe.
there.
Well, that's nothing wrong with that.
No,
Everybody's
I'm
got
kidding.
their own.
For sure. Yeah.
I was talking to Matt before this, and I'm gonna frame this friendlier. So you have a picture of a barred owl, kind of sitting on a branch, kind of in the lower left, and
Oh, it's a
when
wide angle, right?
I think it's wider. Yeah. When
Yeah.
I first
I
looked
know
at
which one you're.
when I
It's like,
first
I think
looked,
it was 50 millimeters.
Yep.
oh, it was a 50. Okay, cool. When I first looked at it, and then I scrolled over and saw the raw, the bird was a lot brighter in the edit than it is in the raw.
There it is.
And for some reason, my eyeballs were just like drawn to the bird, but also it looked to me kind of artificially bright, and I didn't think it was a good. I didn't like it.
Good at it. You didn't.
I'm not saying it
That's
was
fine.
bad. I'm saying I didn't like it. And I was,
Okay.
and that's something that I see that there's a couple things that my eyeballs just pick or think they pick out more often. And it's something like when the subject is abnormally bright to me for some reason, or the sky replacements. I hate sky replacements. Like, I'll call out everybody, but I shouldn't do that because it's mean. But should I be as worried about that as I am like in my own edits? Because I don't.
You are calling out the goat, so I'd be worried there.
I'm not being
fine.
mean.
No,
We're having a discussion.
This is
Everybody's
a
got-
safe
yeah.
space. This is a safe space.
Because it's mostly for me that
So,
I'm like, I don't want it to look too edited for myself.
Yeah. It's a fine line because I mean, you want to draw attention to the subject, and you don't want things in the background to maybe be distractingly bright, and you try to balance it out the best you can. Maybe I overdid it on that one. I don't know, but Matt,
I'm not
have
saying you did.
I did see the image. Kyle did bring it up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, call him out then.
That's fine.
No, I'm kidding. And I personally, I kind of see, I understand what he's saying, but I don't think it's offensively bright. Now, is that, okay, this is the subjectiveness though, is that where you're viewing it, monitor brightness. I find on the phone, it's nowhere near as bright, but it's a smaller subject too, right? So it's taking up less of what I'm looking at. So it's so subjective when it comes to what I may see as a viewer versus what you're seeing as when you're editing it. Because I think I go through these same things when I think this is what Kyle's asking. When I'm editing things, like, have I gone too far? Have I pushed that high key too much? Like, just stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, a lot, like you said, a lot of it is, I think, screen brightness and contrast, because that's one of the most frustrating things about sharing photos online, especially.
Yep.
You get these like low-key images where the background is like all black, and then you're trying to show just the right amount of light on the bird or the subject, and you look at it on one monitor, and you move it to the next one, and then you look at it on your phone, and it only looks good on one, and you try to balance it to make it look good on as many screens as you can.
Yep.
I think the more contrast you have in an image, the more those differences in screens really shows. And I never know, should I edit it like I'm going to print it, or should I edit it assuming that the screen brightness is going to be turned up higher?
That's a great point.
Most people's screens are adjusted brighter than maybe they should be. If you were going to edit for a print,
it needs to be brighter,
my editing
right?
monitor, my editing monitor is darker, which works better for a print because prints aren't back illuminated like a screen.
Right.
So if you do edit for a print, it might be good to have your monitor a little darker. You still want to watch like the histogram when you're doing the edit and all that.
Yep.
Make sure your whites are white and blacks are black and that kind of thing. But if I do edit on the editing monitor and then I put it on Instagram and you see it on a phone screen that's brighter, it might make certain things look brighter than they should. So just kind of the risk you run with sharing stuff on the web.
Do you think, Kyle, that him posting the raw with it actually was the thing that outed him potentially? Do you think if that raw wasn't there, would you even notice that the bird in that area was brightened up a bit to accentuate itself?
It depends if you're asking me as me or me as the public. So I think for me,
you are the public.
Oh, fair. But I think for me, that's one of the things I notice because I try to not do that with my own. So if I see it somewhere else, it's just, it sticks out to me. But like I have the opposite problem where people will have like amazing foreground elements, and to me I'm like, I don't get how to look. People be like, this stick is distracting, or this out of foreground or out of focus foreground element makes the picture better. But I'm like, there's a big blurry thing in front of the subject. Like, why are you putting that there? So like, I've always said I don't get art. I just like pictures of birds. Oh no, did we lose Matt? Oh, was it me?
I don't know. I didn't lose anybody.
Okay.
I think we're good. Okay.
Oh, you're back.
I think
No, it's
also,
okay.
Kyle, to get back to, I think you like darker stuff to begin with.
Well, actually, as these pictures are scrolling, I think I like a lot of the edits here because I love that like dark kind of background and a bright bird, which sounds backwards to what I was just talking about. But I guess in a way, I do like that. But I guess I'm conscious of when I think that for some reason it's overdone. I don't know.
I have a question for you. It's not even really to switch it. Do you ever shoot in bad light?
You talking to me?
Yeah, yeah. I'm going through. I'm looking through them too because I was going through your portfolio just on your header of the website as we stroke you some more here, and it's all in just very 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 beautiful light.
Oh, thanks. Well, some of it's editing, I guess, but most of it is, just choosing to be out at those early morning. Usually it's early morning for me. I'm usually asleep in the evening, but
yeah, same.
But yeah, usually for me it's early mornings, and I kind of I have a super flexible work schedule. My wife and I are self-employed. We work here, on the property, and that means we can get out like sunrise and be dressed in camo or whatever and get out there and spend maybe just that half hour before sunrise, maybe up to an hour, hour and a half after sunrise. And then we just work the rest of the day. Well, you might work all the way till 9 o'clock at night and just, try and block off our schedule to have those best times available. And I know a lot of people, you get the weekend or something and that's it. So you get that first hour of the day, but then you want to stay out and shoot longer. I tend to work 6 or 7 days a week, but I tend to get out at the best hours for photography and just kind of work my schedule around that.
Yep.
But yeah, I get it if you're like if you're working like a 9 to 5 and you get one day on your weekend where you can go out, or maybe 2 days a month on a weekend, and you want to stay out as long as you can. But for me, because I'm kind of spoiled that way, I do get out when the light tends to be best.
And the light is what it is on that one day. Like you said, if it's one day, you have your opportunity is only what's presented.
Yeah.
We also live in the armpit of like North America. No, it's gray a lot. It's just a big flat ditch. I see a lot of color in your skies. A lot of cloud free or very little clouds, or you're using the clouds in a moody way. When you do get harsh light, you're using like a really, really dark background, which that Florida light still kind of accentuating your bird real nice. I think it's still Florida crutch. It's my opinion.
Could be.
I'm jealous. No, that's pure jealousy.
But no, we get a lot of those like gray, dreary days here in the winter. So November through March, we'll get a lot of those just gray, overcast days. But that light is fantastic for certain things. If you just want like really flat light, like a softbox. And the benefit here is, I know you guys get days like that throughout the winter too, I'm sure, but you've got basically no birds around compared to us. All of your birds have come here. So I might, if it's a gray day like that, I might go and photograph kinglets or gnatcatchers or any of that stuff that has come down from you guys, or yellow-rumped warblers, palm warblers, orange-crowned warblers. All kinds of birds come down for the winter and just stay the whole season. And the overcast light like that is perfect for those guys. And then, if you get a pretty sunrise the next day and clear skies, then maybe focus on something like shorebirds or wading birds or something that really benefits from having that kind of light.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd be more jealous after the answer, but apparently that's what just
Yeah, I
happened.
would have a hard time up there in the winter because I know
It's
like you guys do a Christmas bird count and you get like 24 species and
30
maybe
is a 30 is a good
maybe
count.
more if you've got the lakes there. But
Yeah. We
here, not to
yeah.
brag or anything, but
Go for
we've
it.
got an incredible Christmas bird count crew here. Just insane participation. We've got really good birders in the Gainesville area. It doesn't even make sense that we have so many good birders, but we do. But we get like 170 plus species on our Christmas bird count. Not my team specifically, but the across the 15-mile circle, we get 100. We're one of the highest inland records, I think, usually for each season. And we even beat out a lot of the coastal stuff. Definitely way better than when you go up to like the Northeast or Midwest or Canada,
Hmm.
because you guys really don't have much up there. But yeah, we get like 170 species,
Wow.
or up to 175, 176 or something. The record is somewhere in the like mid 170s.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And like my team specifically, we normally get around 102 to 106 on my little team.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah,
That's
definitely a
that's our
big difference.
summer. That's our summer.
Yeah,
Like I get 100 species in a day is pretty good for a summer.
I
Yeah.
imagine we could, if you were somewhere on open water, we could get a lot of like ducks and stuff to get
Yeah,
a
that's what I
big
was gonna
portion of that.
say. We do get the push from the Arctic birds coming down. There's only so many species, but you get your ducks, you get your some hawks that go down, come like the rough legs, and you get your
Snowy owls show up.
yeah, you get your owls that come down.
Snow
But
buntings.
again, like if you do that count, you're probably still only at 30 or 40 birds, right?
I could count
yeah.
about 60
Like
or 70 snow buntings sometimes.
yeah, well, it still counts as one species.
Well, some of them look different than the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you'll see 1,000 snow buntings just on a road. Like it is cool. You do see these cool birds that it is a nice change. I don't think on saying all this, I don't think I would want to get away from the four seasons kind of idea that we have up here. I like it. It's fresh. I think it does help with depression and stuff like that. To kind of have the changing seasons. But for the birding and the photography, it can get tough. It can
Well,
get
what you
tough.
guys have that isn't nearly as good down here is your springs. When you
Yes.
so many like here you get breeding birds, of course, in the summer, but whenever I go even up to like the Appalachian Mountains up in North
Hmm.
Georgia, there is such a huge difference in how many birds you can see just out and about singing and on
On
territory
territory,
and
yeah.
raising young and that kind of thing. And when you go up north of here, the caterpillars and stuff that you guys get, you get
Hmm.
huge rushes of like caterpillars and things that we don't get so much, not in the same like burst of
Hmm.
Right.
food that some of the songbirds need to
Yeah.
feed their young. So we have there's like a handful of species I work with down here in the springtime, but I know if I go even just a few hundred miles north, it makes a huge
Vastly
difference. So
different.
that's like the one thing that is that you shouldn't take for granted up there because it is
It's short and
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
It's probably 6 weeks at max. Just like it slowly starts and then it gets hard hit for 3 weeks and then
It's
it
like
tapers
May.
off. It's like May into the first 2 weeks of June, and then it's really hard to even find a bird because they're all breeding, taking care of clutches, nesting. The leaves all take over. They're in high canopies.
Mm.
You do kind of have to now go. It's we call it the dog days of summer because it's not easy to find something. It's almost just as hard to find something in the summer as it is in the winter, but spring and fall can be really good.
Yeah, that's kind of been my impression the few times I've gone north. I don't like the cold. I think I said that already.
Yeah,
I
we
tend to
may
We
not
don't
have been
like it either.
recording.
travel.
We may
I will
not have been
go like
recording, but
yeah.
yeah.
I will travel to like the Amazon rainforest in our winter sometimes because I just would rather be warm. But
Sure.
yeah, down here we have there are some species that I've learned how to find really good opportunities with locally, like Bachman sparrow, Prothonotary warbler, even like common yellowthroat can be pretty good.
Hmm.
You Carolina wrens, you guys I know probably don't get those
We
guys.
do.
Yeah,
we
we
have
do.
Carolina
Oh, you
wrens.
do?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they're freaking
Awesome.
loud.
Yeah, they are.
Do you find that the common yellowthroat are they skulky down there, or are they only skulky up here on territory?
They're pretty. They can be actually pretty feisty when they have a nest. That's when you have to
Okay.
be careful not to offend too much. And if they end up seeing you, sometimes they'll just come out and just cheep, 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 and like try to scare you off. And
Witchy, witchy,
I
witchy,
have
witchy.
not found them to be like skulky too much. I mean, they are if it's not breeding season, but if they have a nest, they can be pretty defensive and right
Okay.
up in your face, and you definitely want to back up, and give them their space.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the rest of the year, and we actually have them as a year-round resident here. We get quite a few in the winter because yours come down to us,
Right.
and
Yeah, they add to.
yeah, I get lots of opportunities with common yellow throats, really, but they do tend to stay down in the brush and down in the bushes, and
Yeah.
but if you see one, you hear one, they make that little type call, you just
Mm-hmm.
kind of wait, and they'll usually you'll get an
For
opportunity with them.
yeah.
I went to a marsh that I like to go to. I didn't go last year, but I should have. Actually, right now, their yellow throat with the breath is on my screen, and that's a 6 shot. I haven't got
Great.
any breath shots yet. But the marsh that I went to, I guess it was like prime yellow throat breeding time because there was so many, and I didn't find them that day particularly skulky at all. They were like in my face, just screaming at me from bushes that were close to me, and I love that. I love when birds do that. Like, you're right,
Were
I'm
they
in your
like
space.
were they singing, or were they making like alarm calls, or
I
they could
don't.
have had nest?
They might have had nests, though. They would sit on the top of like the bushes and stuff and throw their head back and just like do their call straight up in the air. Like, they didn't seem bothered by me.
They're
They were
probably
just,
pretty happy then. Yeah.
yeah, they seemed
Yeah, I
pretty
have
happy.
found them to be really defensive of their nests. Like, and you'll know it because you'll just be walking down a trail, and then one will just jump up and just start like making all kinds of alarm calls at you. So yeah, that's and then I'll still photograph them, but I'll back up until they're at the point where they aren't bothered by me anymore.
Mhm. You said that a couple years ago, or actually not a couple years ago. I go visit them every year. There's a nest of ospreys that show. Ospreys are my favorite bird. They're, to me, I don't know. I'll never not take a picture of an osprey. But there's a nest that I go to every year, and sort of mid-March usually was when they show up, and then they'll start rebuilding the nest from the year before and stuff. But the one day the male came back with a fish, and he sat on a really cool, to me, post, and I went to go get pictures of him, and I was walking up to him, and he would stare straight at me and like chirp, and then I'd stand there for a couple minutes, and he'd go back to eating his fish, and then I'd kind of come closer, and then he'd look up and chirp at me, and I was like, sorry, too close. And then so I had the 800 f11 on the R7 at the time, so I didn't have to get that close to him, but I wanted like a nice full frame portrait of him. But I love when like a bird would be like, hey, back off. I'm like, you're right, sorry. I'm in your house.
Parental job. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ospreys are kind of fun too, because I didn't know this. Like, I obviously know that they make sticks, but they make nests out of sticks, but I hadn't seen how they acquire the sticks before. But that time, basically they just didn't land on a tree. They would fly to a tree, grab the stick, and just try to keep going. If the stick came off, they would take it with them. And if the stick didn't come off, they'd kind of fumble and catch themselves and do another circle around and grab another stick. And it was really cool to watch. I hadn't seen that before. And the one time this thing was coming over the horizon, and I was like, what is that? And it was the osprey that had probably a 6 to 7 foot stick. So it just looked like this weird T-shaped thing in the sky. And he was struggling with it, but he did get it all the way up on his like 30-foot post to lay it down. Then he shuffled it around a bit. And I was like, that's the stuff that I love watching. And I have a problem that I'll just stand there like this, and I won't even take pictures. I'll just like stare and just be excited and happy. I'm like, oh, I should have taken pictures of that.
Yeah, the osprey are fun to watch. There's certain birds I realize I'll go and look for a photo of one. I have like nothing, and osprey is one of them. I've got very little of
Same.
osprey. I don't know why. It's a bird where it's like, if there is a nest that, it's one of those birds where it's easy if you find the right situation, and until you find the right situation, you don't want to like spend time on some situation that's subpar where you've got just sky behind the nest or whatever, because there are situations out there where maybe the bird is like on a street light that's only 25 feet off the ground, and then there's a vantage point you can get to and kind of get eye level. And I just haven't come across that situation, but I haven't. Yeah, that's one that they're fun to watch, but I haven't ever really found a great situation to photograph them. We have one here where it's at one of our local parks. It's pretty popular, and the post that they put out for it is like 60 feet high. It's huge. It's kind of ridiculous. And then the platform is comically small. It's like a foot by like a 1 square foot platform.
Yep.
And then we watched for years as these poor osprey would go and bring these huge sticks. Like they would sometimes, like you said, barely make it to the nest with the stick. The thing's like 60 feet off the ground. You have this, 5-6 foot stick, and it was sad to watch because they'd put the stick up there and the sticks would always fall back down. And then we watched for like off and on, for like 3 or 4 weeks. We finally, the osprey finally got like 3 or 4 good structural sticks up there to where everything was balanced and sticking in place.
Yep.
And but it was just like painful to watch these guys fly all the way up to that ridiculous post with these huge sticks and just watch the stick just tumble all the way to the ground.
Yeah. I'll after we're done here, I'll send a couple of my favorite osprey pictures in the chat with the 3 of us, because I think my favorite picture I've ever taken is of an osprey. I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but it was that same pair that I go back and visit, and I think it was the male coming back with a fish, and it was my first day with a new camera that day, and it doesn't matter, but it was a Sony A9 in the 200 to 600 lens, and I just kind of fired the camera up there and just sprayed it because the osprey I'd noticed kind of late as it was flying over going back to the nest with a fish, and when I took the pictures, it looked like a Who's That. I don't know if this is a bad reference, but it looked like a Who's That Pokemon where it's just like a cutout like against a white sky of nothing. He's just a black bird. But I was able to kind of level out both the sky, which had some definition of clouds, and the osprey, and it's my favorite picture. I definitely need to print it, and it's just like it's got like a sucker fish, and the sucker fish has got its mouth open, and there's like the talons are in the fish. Yeah, it looks sick. I think it looks sick.
With your new camera or new camera angle, you have a perfect spot for it right behind you.
I know. I got to put it over here.
Be.
That's where it should be.
That's
right
where
there.
It should be.
After Christmas is over.
Before we switch topics quickly, I saw a photo, and I loved these guys when I was down in Florida. Wood storks, good bird or bad bird?
I love them. Yeah,
you love them. They're great, aren't they? I like them. I just didn't notice a lot of people when I was down there interested in photographing them. If there were snowy egrets, if there were little blue herons,
I guess,
tricoloreds, they would always go for them. But
yeah, I guess those other birds you mentioned are more like elegant, and the general public would probably find them to be more attractive. But the wood storks are really cool. They've got that head like a vulture that's all kind of warty and bald. Maybe that's a turnoff to some people. I think they're really cool because they're such a generalist. They'll scavenge. They'll eat. They actually they did a study once. Somebody did, and put opaque contact lenses on the eyeballs of wood storks, and then turn them into an environment, and to see how well they could feed with these opaque contact lenses in. So they're feeding blind, and they were just as successful.
Wow.
Just by feel. So it's really amazing if you think about how
crazy,
well adapted they are to finding food, that even without any sight whatsoever, they can still find just as much food blind like that. But they're pretty much generalists too. They'll eat outside of the water. They'll pick up stuff, dead fish on the beach, roadkill. I've seen them eat all kinds of stuff. I think they're really cool birds.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I kind of appreciate them more knowing that. I'm glad I asked that stupid question, to be honest.
Sometimes the ugly birds are fun. Like, same with everyone not hates, but everyone's like, ew, turkey vultures are gross. I'm like, no, turkey vultures are the best. Like, I'm not going to hear any slander for turkey vultures.
My wife and I love vultures. Those are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
You can't talk about turkey vultures and then slander bald eagles like in the same sentence. That's
Yeah.
all. That's all.
I
That's all.
can't.
I don't.
I can't.
No,
I don't
you
like bald
can't.
eagles.
That's what I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that. Like they can both. They can both be good. All right.
They are both good, but like
I appreciate all the birds.
There you go.
I
We're
have-
bird inclusive here.
I like all birds, but there are some that I. So for me, the bald eagles are always mean to the osprey, so I have to side with my boys, the ospreys. So I can't
I
like the
get
bald
that.
eagles.
I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up something that we had been talking briefly about a couple months ago, which made me kind of realize, you know what, this would be good to podcast about. I want to talk about your use of the extension tubes and how you use them
sure.
for wildlife, because I think you have a very interesting take that people might consider them a little bit more.
Yeah, I use extension tubes a lot. And just for anybody who doesn't know what they are, because it doesn't seem like I'm always proselytizing about extension tubes when I'm out seeing people because I think they're cool. But basically, all it is, it looks like a teleconverter. It's hollow in the middle. There's no glass in it whatsoever. It's just a spacer. Goes between the camera body and the lens. And all it does is it just moves the lens forward a bit. Yep, there we go.
It's a Sony one,
yes,
but it
for
counts.
anybody that's watching the video,
There's no lens
Kyle's
in
got
here.
one in his hand, and it's just a spacer. That's all
Wait,
it is.
this is a
This is a family show.
family show, yeah.
But yeah, so it just brings the lens forward of the camera body, and it means that you're able to focus more closely on stuff. But the downside is you can't focus as far away. So it makes your minimum focusing distance closer, but then you now have a maximum focusing distance. You can no longer focus to infinity.
Okay.
So I use them a lot for, traditionally people think of them as for macro work, and I use them a lot for that. It's really great if you are like doing bird and wildlife photography and then you see a cool bug or frog or whatever it is, and you don't have a macro lens on. You just throw your extension tube on, and then you can turn your like 100 to 500 into like a semi macro. It'll get to about 1 to 2 reproductions, so not like a true macro. So that's one reason I carry one with me most of the time. But also, if I'm photographing anything that's like songbird sized, anything from say a hummingbird up to like a robin's maybe sized bird, definitely sparrows, warblers, wrens, kinglets, anything in that sort of size range, I pretty much always have an extension tube on, because I know that in reality there's only so far away that I'm going to be photographing those birds, maybe 30, 35 feet at most, without a teleconverter or something. And my extension tube, I have the one I use most is a 35 millimeter extension tube, and I'll put it on my 500 millimeter lens, and it makes that lens so that its maximum focus distance is something like 35 feet, right at the far edge of like where I might possibly want to take a small in frame photo of a bird. And then what the benefit is it makes that minimum focusing distance go from I think like 11.5 feet to about 8.5 feet, which doesn't sound like a lot to a lot of people, but I know with the way I shoot, I am constantly getting birds in that range. Like most of your prime lenses, especially, they'll have a magnification of something like the newer ones might be 0.17, 0.2, maybe some. I think some of the new 400 millimeter f2.8s from the major manufacturers are somewhere in the 0.2 range, so 1 to 5 magnification. If you have anywhere from the typical like 0.15 to 0.2 magnification on your lens for your big prime, that's only like barely enough to get a fairly large in frame shot of one of these tiny birds. Like hummingbirds, forget it. You won't be able to get a large in frame shot of a hummingbird unless you have an extension tube. But with just the bare lens, if you are photographing even warblers or sparrows, kinglets, gnatcatchers, that kind of thing, it's like right at that 12-foot mark, roughly, where they're starting to be kind of a large in frame composition. And when my lens focuses to 11.5 feet, and then I hit minimum focusing distance, which is actually pretty close for a prime lens
Mhm.
for a 500 f4. Most of them are more like 12 and a half. I think the older one is like 15 or 16. The older Canon Mark One is like a 16-foot minimum focus distance. Mine's 11 and a half, but if the bird has to be like 12 feet to get large in the frame, then I don't want to have just 6 inches of wiggle room, because
Right.
that's just one little perch over, and he
Mhm.
pops over, and then you've got him. You can't focus on him. That extra like 2.5 feet or 3 feet or whatever it is, but almost 3 feet of added minimum focus distance to my lens means that I have a wide margin for when birds come into that sort of sweet spot to get a large in frame composition, rather than just being like right on the verge of not being able to focus all the time. So that is, for birds, that's my main reason for using them, is to give me a little bit better operating zone for focusing than I would get with the bare lens. Um, the other time that you might use it would be, I remember excuse me, let me get a drink of water. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, with my 150 to 600, have you guys heard of focus breathing?
Yes.
That concept? Yeah, it's
I was
mainly
just going to
something,
talk about this.
yeah, something videographers think about. Um, the newer lenses aren't as bad in general. I think the like the 400 800 Sony is a lot better than like the 200 to 600.
That's why I have
I
these.
think the yeah. So the 200 to 600 I think was really bad about focus breathing. But basically all that is whenever you have any lens, especially zoom lenses, that millimeter rating they have on them, say that 600 millimeters on the long end of those 150 to 600s and 200 to 600s, that is only true at infinity focus. And then as you focus on things more closely, that actual magnification is going down considerably. With my Sigma 150 to 600, it was at minimum focusing distance, I want to say it was like 430 millimeters. I did a calculation once and came up with that 430 millimeters. So it gets pretty frustrating when when you take like 3 steps towards your subject and it feels like you took 2 because your focal length has decreased.
Right.
So I kept, anytime I was shooting any songbird whatsoever, I would keep an extension tube glued to that Sigma 150 to 600 because I would get much closer to that true 600 millimeters on that lens. It wasn't as much for the minimum focusing distance because most of those zoom lenses, including that Sigma, are like the Sigma I think was 8.5 feet already without an extension tube. It was something like 4.5, 5 feet with the extension tube. But on those zoom lenses, it can be a huge benefit to put that extension tube on, because when you start getting to that like 10, 11, 12-foot range, it almost feels like you put a teleconverter on, but without nearly as much light loss.
Hmm.
And they won't affect your autofocus as bad because you're not losing near as much light.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a big benefit if for anybody out there that's shooting on a zoom lens. My 100 to 500 is pretty good about focus breathing. I do see a little boost if I am shooting like really, really close stuff, like 8 foot, something like that. And I put the extension tube on it, it will give me a bit of a boost. But if I'm more like 10, 12, 15 feet away from the subject, it's not worth putting the extension tube on for that. Um, so those are the main reasons I use it, but mainly it's just, with my lens now, it's just to shift that zone of focus to something that's more usable for the subject I have at hand. It does get frustrating though if you are photographing gnatcatchers or warblers or something, and then you get a hawk that flies over or an owl or whatever it is goes by.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you miss the opportunity. You have to sit there and fumble and take everything apart. You're not going to get anything spur of the moment that happens quickly if it's going to be farther away than 30, 35 feet. At least with my lens.
Right. Okay.
Matt always talks about shooting to the limitations of whatever your gear is. I think that's a good example of it. Of you, like
Mhm.
you're kind of, I'll say, customizing the gear to be a specific thing. So you're like, this is the thing I'm going to shoot today. And sometimes it's nice to kind of pigeonhole yourself to
Yep.
kind of focus you in on what you're doing. The reason I have these teleconverters, or sorry, extension tubes, is yeah, the 200 to 600. I was told after getting it how this problem, not a problem, this feature, this bug of the lens, And I think it was a Tony Northrup video that kind of highlighted it for me. And at the time, I had the Sony A9 and I had Canon 80D with the 300f4, the little stubby one. And I set them up in my room here on a shelf, and I pointed them across the house at the same subject. And at 600, at minimum focusing distance for the 2:6, the subject wasn't that much smaller in frame on the 300 prime. And that was when I was like, oh, I see what's happening now. Granted, the 300 prime was on a crop sensor and the other one was on full frame, but I tried to account for that because it was like 420 or whatever. But that kind of matched with what you were saying with the like 500 or the 600 that was like 430, whatever you just said.
Yeah,
That was
that
kind
was.
of the same.
I think the 200 to 600 was even worse than that. I think it was probably closer to 400, maybe less, like the actual effective focal length. Um, but no, it can be a huge benefit with some of those zoom lenses. I think now, and this is just my speculation, but I think some of the newer designs, they're catering more to videographers, and focus breathing is a big deal for videographers, especially with longer focal lengths for doing those focus pull shots. You don't want to make it look like you're zooming in or out when you're just changing focus. So I think because of that, the manufacturers have started correcting better for that focus breathing, and it benefits us too. Before the videography was a consideration, I feel like those zoom lenses were the target audience was, people doing air shows, people photographing sports, activities where the subject is like 100 yards off, not 12 feet away. I just don't think it was a consideration before, but I'm happy to see that they in general seem to be getting better. Now it may go the other way now that some of these cameras can do the digital focus breathing correction, where basically it's just cropping in perfectly as you change focus. I know Sony does that. I think the newer Canon cameras do that. So it might be that the manufacturers will decide to go the other direction, maybe make the lens a little bit more affordable or a little bit less affordable for them. Probably not us, if we're being honest. And then use digital focus breathing correction to account for that rather than building it in optically. So hopefully that won't happen.
Well, the more processing power they get, the better, the faster cards they get, the more reading speed they get. Like you're able to get more of these things corrected now in these modern cameras than the ability they had in the past. It was just kind of a byproduct of what they were.
I feel like I heard that the internal zooming lenses also show that worse than like a telescoping zoom. So I think like 2:8 or the 2:6, sorry, for Sony is kind of a good example of it. Doesn't have any moving parts on the outside. But the 200 800 I don't think experiences that, but I think any zoom you'll experience that, but I think ones that zoom externally are actually better. I think it's just because
the 2:8, apparently the 2:8 does have it minimally. Like it's way better, obviously, like Matt suggested. The 1 to 500, surprisingly, I actually don't think it has it at all.
It's probably just the range.
Yeah, it could be just exactly getting out to that 800 range. They still haven't completely fixed that, but I bet the 600, 500 range and down there, obviously. The reason I brought it up is because I've picked up that 300 2.8, and it has a minimum focus distance of 8.2 feet, which sounds great, but it's still only 300 millimeters. So adding those extension tubes to it may get me into that 6 foot range, 5.5 foot range. That makes a big difference.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because I bet it only has a minimum or max magnification of 0.11.
Maybe
9.
No, I think it would. It's a Gen 1.
It's a Gen 1, yeah.
I used to have the 400 f5.6, and that was kind of the same generation, that 400 f5.6. And I think it had a 0.12. They kind of make a standard, it seems like, and kind of stick to it with the generations. So I bet it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
Let's see.
Now, if you were to add a teleconverter to that, then your magnification would be much better. Because you still have that same MFD of 6 feet or 6.5 feet or whatever it is, and
8.2, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. But you would be able to get something probably closer to 0.3 magnification would be my guess. with the teleconverter installed. But you do a lot of shorebirds, it seems like, and
I do like shorebirds, yeah.
yeah. So with them, I mean, if you're trying to just go without teleconverters, and they will come. I know a lot of the species. I don't know about the ones up there. They'll come within 2 feet of the front of your lens.
They crawl on my fingers.
Oh yeah,
They'll walk
that's
right
cool.
across my fingers if I'm just laying there on the beach. If I've like intercepted them and watched the way they're working the shoreline and what direction, I'm just an obstacle. And they're like, I'm gonna get past you. And very rarely do they fly around you. They'll just kind of just walk past you.
Oh
Yeah,
cool. I don't
it's
think I've
great.
had one actually walk across my hands or feet or anything, but they
Oh
do
yeah.
come super close sometimes, depending on the species. But that might be a good use case for an extension tube on that
Hmm.
300 because you would certainly have opportunities to get more like head and shoulders shots of shorebirds
Yeah.
with the extension tube on when they come, like 5 feet away,
Hmm.
thereabouts.
Hmm.
I have a funny shot of me taking a picture of a sanderling, and my buddy is the background. Like he's shooting the 1:5 at a
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah.
sanderling. You can see just the lens behind him, and the
That's kind
sanderling
of cool.
standing up on a stump. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
between us, and it was so funny.
That's why I enjoy them so much because like even although you can get great photos of them, they're always out in the open. You're not having to worry about busy scenes. You can make it really dreamy. Just the experience of being out there and like them being around you is just something so surreal feeling to me. You can
Oh,
just feel like you can
absolutely.
just put yourself
Kind
in
of one
there
with the
with them.
environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't get much better than that. Like you can kind of push yourself in the forest and kind of feel like you're a tree and there but you don't really get the same experience of the wide open to watch the behavior as much of almost I think any species as well as a shorebird. I think that's one that you could watch and get
Well,
a
I
lot
think
out of.
everybody's different. I put me in the forest, I think, any day with the songbirds out there, and that's my happy spot. But everybody's kind of got their zen place, I guess, and
Yeah.
maybe yours is the shore.
It's the beach. I like the beach. I
Yeah.
burn like crazy. So like it's the beach early morning before the sun's up.
Yeah.
Once the sun's up, I'm gone. I'll burn. I'm Irish. I just burn like crazy. Yeah.
I think I like ducks. I don't do a ton of duck photography, but I really just like because they're always interacting with each other and doing something. Like they're not just sitting there generally, unless they're sleeping. But like they're always doing. I love when a merganser like throws their head back for the mating calls, and I like the every time a goldeneye takes off, it whistles, and like they're always doing something fun, and I think, and they're big, so that you can you don't have to worry about being like super duper close to a lot of them, other than hooded mergansers, which hate me and I think everyone else.
You don't have to worry about being super close to them because they're ducks. And they never allow you to get super close to
Yeah,
them.
certain ones
They're
definitely
like
don't.
they're like the opposite of a shorebird, which they're out in the open and you can see their behavior, except it's from a distance.
6 miles away, bufflehead way out
I
there.
like them. It's the same idea, but there's a few species that are acceptable of your presence, and then there's other species that know they hear you when you shut your car door, is what I say all the time. You could be
Yeah,
three
I
or four
know.
kilometers, and yeah.
Yeah, I know ducks are that way. I don't get a lot of opportunity with ducks or other waterfowl. The way things are here, most of the ponds, and I think it's just the geology of the land or what have you, but they are really gradually sloping from the shore out to the deepest section. And we have such a long growing season here that the first, third of the way out into the pond is going to be just vegetated, and
Right.
there's just no great access to most of the open water around here. Sometimes you can find like a residential pond where it's an artificial pond and it's a little bit deeper around the side so that you don't get the vegetation. So there
Hmm.
are a few little spots here and there, but uh, compared to like when I go up north, Georgia or north of that, I think it's just the topography, the long growing season. I don't know what else, but yeah, it's just tough to get access to open water where you can access the waterfowl. And then you've also got another consideration is if you sit on the shore of any of our water bodies around here for too long, you might become a meal to something. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that problem.
I was just gonna say, when is he gonna bring up alligators?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
It's always top of mind in certain
Yep,
places
for
around
sure.
here, and
Yep.
I probably take more risks than I should, but you can't be too foolish.
I probably take more risks than I should being an out of towner because I will forget. Like any pond I
Yeah,
look
it's
at, the last thing I'm thinking of is there's a monster that could pull me in.
Swamp puppy.
yeah, most of them aren't gonna go after people. It's
Sure.
mainly like around Disney or places. That's where we had a. I remember one of the alligator attacks. They
Yeah.
start to associate people with food. Everybody throws them leftovers, and then they see a person, they think food, and then if you have a toddler by the water, then or a
Yep.
dog or whatever.
I
Yep. 100%. Absolutely.
was gonna
Yeah, but
say,
even out in like wilderness areas, I still worry about them quite a bit. Because a 12-foot alligator or anything 9 feet or above I would worry about, but you start to look more like a meal to something that's 9, 10, 11, 12 feet. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've only had one kind of close call, and luckily it was more like a 6 or 7 foot alligator. So when she got like right up on me, she backed off. um, but I try not to put myself in a position where I'm have a high risk. Uh,
yeah.
there's always a risk. I do go wading through swamps pretty often, even like chest deep sometimes in black water. But if you take a really, alligators are ambush predators more than anything. They've got two ways of feeding, to my understanding. One is they will ambush things that come up to the shore. So that's not really happening so much if you're wading through the water and you're approaching an alligator. They're more looking for something they can sneak up on. The other way they feed is they'll just sit in the water and kind of move their head side to side, and they've got really sensitive, like sensory spots on their face, and they wait for anything to um, enter their mouth, and then they grab it. So if you're wading through a swamp, there is a chance of walking into an alligator that is just feeding on the bottom like that, and you could get yourself snapped, bitten by those guys as you go through.
No
So, but
thanks.
what I would do is I'll take like my monopod or something, and I'll extend it all the way out and kind of hold it out in front of me, like out in the water, because if you poke an alligator, it will run off. At least that's what I'm told. I haven't actually gotten. I've been like startled by them and startled the alligator too, several times doing that, but I've never gotten close enough to actually poke one with a stick, thankfully. But
Wow.
it's something that you've always got to be aware of. You don't want to just like walk blindly through, you know, dark water you can't see through, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, it
Sure.
doesn't sound fun.
Smart. Smart. Yeah.
When earlier we are talking about how your water like gradually slopes in, that's kind of an advantage sometimes for us in the winter with ice, is that part will freeze. So you can kind of get out to the open spot where it hasn't froze yet. There was actually
Safe?
well, actually that's
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
It is.
So
For the
so
most part.
last year me and Matt ended up at the same park. We knew each other was there, but we didn't really go together. Like he got there first and I came with a friend later. And we had, unbeknownst to me and my other friend, we were in this similar spot to Matt, who had been there a couple hours previous. And he texted me later. He's like, "Did you see the spot where I almost fell in?" And I guess the water had the ice had sort of melted underneath and he was laying close to it. I guess it went, it wasn't that deep. It just fell like, what, a couple of inches, maybe? 6
Yeah,
inches?
maybe 6 or 8 inches. It was like a shelf that kind of went out as the beach gradually kind of went away from it, and there'd been water pocket that was kind of sloshing underneath it, but for like a good 60-yard span, and maybe 10 yards thick. And it all just dropped with me kind of crawling across it. And I thought I was in the drink. And I kind of reassessed myself and went, okay, the ice shelf just fell down, but I'm still dry. So
Yeah.
it can be unsafe, but I will take that over potentially running into an alligator any
Alligator.
day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess it's
Yeah.
you'll it's the what's the saying?
Oh, I
I can't
think
remember, but you're taking you'll take whatever the thing the
Yeah,
devil
exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
that's
Yep.
the one. The devil,
Absolutely.
Yeah. The I like that concept of like sliding out on the ice and stuff. last year at that same park. Me and my buddy Craig were taking a picture of, this is a different situation, but this is the most Canadian thing you've ever heard. Me and my friend Craig were taking a picture of this beaver, and to get to him, I had to walk around like a point, and I had to like clamber over a bunch of logs or sticks, and I was like, this is just annoying. So I ended up laying down on the sticks, and I'm taking pictures of this beaver eating a piece of wood. And what a beaver will do when you're close to their house or near them, they'll kind of swim past you and smack their tail on the ground. That's kind of their like get out of here thing. And he was kind of swimming close. He didn't do the tail slap, but he was getting close and kind of looking at me and my buddy. And then I realized while he wasn't there, or while he was stationary, I heard chewing. And then I kind of realized that I was probably laying on the roof of his house. So there was probably another one under the water inside the lodge, which I didn't realize was a lodge because it was covered in snow. And I was like, I'm literally laying on top of this guy's house, taking a picture of him, and his wife is probably underneath me just having lunch. And I was like, I feel like such a jerk. So I was like, I'm sorry. So I like walked away. But I was like, that's some stuff. Ice hides a lot, so you don't often know what's down there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would be so out of my element in that environment.
It allows you to access different areas, for sure. But there's always the risk involved.
Yeah, and I've been to cold places, not often. I try to avoid them, but I never mess with frozen rivers, frozen lakes. I have no idea what I'm doing, so I just I stay away. I'm sure that when you live there and you get experience with it, you can start to learn to gauge the thickness of the ice and kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I just totally avoid it.
It's just like you and alligators. You just figure out how to deal with them.
Yeah.
We're on skates on a pond when we're like 6.
Yeah, what's a dangerous situation, what's not. It's what you know, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think I have any more questions personally. I don't think I've asked enough, but I keep just staring over at your pictures here, and 99.9% of them, I'm like, that's an excellent picture. Like I'm bad with thrushes. So there's a thrush here. I don't know if it's a Swanson's or a Veery, but I can't get that close to a thrush no matter how hard. I see them in the park across the street. I've had them hopping through my front yard. Every time they see me, they take off. But like all of these pictures, I'm like, I need that picture. I need that picture. I need a Pathonotary just like highlighted in the middle of a dark forest. Yeah, it's incredible. And
I should have
with the thrushes, we mostly get hermit thrushes here for any appreciable amount of time. We get Swainsons and great-cheeked and wood thrushes that migrate through. Occasionally, wood thrushes will nest not too far away, but I mostly photograph hermit thrushes because they're winter residents here. And my approach to those guys is I will just look for the direction of travel and then find some way through the woods really quick and kind of go out on the other side of wherever the bird's going, and then just kind of squat down and wait for the bird to show up, and it works 1 in a dozen times and you'll get a shot. But it's not easy. And then some of the other thrush shots I've gotten of the other species are at Dry Tortugas National Park. Have you guys heard of that one?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, so we've got a few national parks here in Florida. This is just a series. I think there's technically 7 islands, but it's mainly restricted to you would think it was 2 islands if you were there. It's 70 miles west of Key West, almost the same latitude, but it's just way isolated by itself out there. It's the farthest, west you can get, other than being the panhandle of Florida way up north.
Key Wester.
Yeah, 70 miles west. Yeah, exactly.
Key Wester. That's the episode title.
Episode
title.
Great.
Key Westist.
Key Westist.
Key Westist. There you go.
But this place, it's on different flyways. You get the eastern flyway birds that would normally go up the peninsula of Florida and up into up the Atlantic coast, up to New England or what have you. And then you get the central flyway birds that would maybe come from northern Colombia, Venezuela, the Yucatan Peninsula, and then they would cut across the center of the Gulf of Mexico and go up the central flyway following the Mississippi River corridor up towards you guys. And then both of those migrate. Those migration paths kind of intersect at dry tortugas to a degree, so you
Oh,
can
cool.
get all kinds of different birds there. And it's the only land, uh, for 90 plus miles for birds coming from Cuba. I think it's over 100 miles coming from the Yucatan Peninsula. So it's the first speck of land that a lot of these birds that are traveling up these two flyways see, and
Okay.
they're desperate for water and food and whatever, so they'll stop in. And for whatever reason, the birds, probably just because they're exhausted and they've been, they're on their last on the reserve tank, if you will.
Hmm.
They are really accommodating. They're like, and it's not even just that uh, you can get close to them. They'll come like right up close to you. I've had like what was the bird? The eastern peewees like landing on my hat and on my lens.
Yep.
Birds will, yeah, they're just everywhere, and the last thing on their mind is predators
Mm.
and people, and they just don't seem to care when they're at dry tortugas. Um, I think some of the other migrant traps can be that way too, because you just get birds that kind of, for whatever reason, get concentrated into a spot when
Yep.
they're on that journey, and they just don't seem to be thinking as much about threats. They're more thinking about finding resources. So you can get really close to those guys. So I have photographed all kinds of warblers and thrushes and cuckoos and all kinds of stuff out at Dry Tortugas. It's a great place to go. It's just an insane density of birds sometimes. It's hit and miss because it's migration. It depends on the
Yep.
weather,
Yeah.
what the prevailing winds are doing. If there's a frontal boundary, stalled on top of you or whatever the case is. You'll get days where there's just really extreme fallout, and it feels like you couldn't throw a rock without hitting a bird. Don't do it, but you know what I mean.
That sounds
um,
like Peely. We have a place called Point Peely, and the
yeah,
second week of May, that's sort of the first land
coming from
after.
Ohio and from
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure. I haven't been out there, but I've heard really good stuff about Peely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, people will flock there in the first, second, third week of May, and they'll get like every warbler in like one little space because they all just kind of heap in, and the same thing. They've flew over the Great Lakes. They're exhausted. They just want food. Like, so it seems like a similar place, but just a lot further south, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's a number of spots like that throughout North America. I think Point Peely, McGee Marsh, which is like kind of on the
Yep.
other side. That's
Yep.
kind of before they take off to go to Point Peely. And then there's like a park in South Florida that can be good in fall. I hear that's kind of the same thing. It's just where the way the barrier islands are lined up. Hawk Mountain, I think, is a really good one. There's spots along the Texas Gulf Coast where you get really good concentrations of migrants like that. Definitely the types of places you want to go if you need to add songbirds to your portfolio.
Mm-hmm. That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
need extension tubes before that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can use these ones, but you need Sony.
I'll figure it out. I'll weld it on somehow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I
I
think
think
this is.
we're at 2 hours, so we don't want to keep it too long.
geez.
You talked
I know.
about how you're in bed usually and you're up early, and I feel you. So
Oh,
we
I'm
won't-
good. Yeah. Had no idea 2 hours had passed.
two hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically, it's 1 hour and 49 minutes, but we probably
Oh.
started talking before that, and I didn't click
right.
record.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I hope you're all still with us. I'm sure you are. I should have said this earlier, but if you go to birdlifephoto.com, a lot of the photos that we speak about during this podcast are just across the banner. I've been watching them. Just scroll by. I'm sure.
Every time I
I've been
look this
doing the
way,
same thing.
this is what I'm looking at.
So if you do have any questions of any of the photos that we speak of, bird photo life
Bird
or
Life Photo.
birdlifephoto.com is where you want to go for that. Yeah, figure I would just at least say that.
Awesome.
It's at the end, so I don't know if it's going to help. Maybe you'll go back and listen to it again. You'll put 4 hours in.
Oh my
Perfect.
goodness.
It'd be great. Awesome.
But no, it's been a good chat. It's been everything I expected it to be, with your expertise and Cheat Life Florida down there. That's what the website should be called, Cheat Life Photo.
Oh my goodness! I wish.
No,
I
we
wish
know
it
we
were
know
that easy.
we know you know your stuff, but we're just playing with you.
I'm just obsessive, I think.
We all are.
It's exactly.
I think all of us have to be a little bit crazy to pursue the hobby. Really.
Amen. For sure.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate,
absolutely.
you sort of the mentality you guys have on all of this stuff. You don't take it too serious, and I appreciate that. And you guys, when you talk about gear and stuff, you're always like value conscious, and I really can resonate with that, because that is like, you hear all these people on like YouTube, and I'm sure it's sponsorships or whatever, but everybody seems like they make it sound like you have to have the latest and greatest thing, and you guys prove otherwise. And not a lot of voices out there talk about looking for just getting like a good value and not having the latest and greatest thing and not having to have like everything under the sun. So yeah, I appreciate what you guys do. I enjoy the show. And again, thanks a lot for inviting me on.
No
Thank
problem.
you. It's interesting when we started, like, I didn't think we were going to be talking to you or Ray or
anyone.
Or,
Oh, geez, I'm
Richard.
flattered if you put me in the same.
You're the Sigma goat. Stop it.
Oh my goodness.
You're gonna live with that.
Oh wow. And my wife will enjoy that.
That's awesome. But yeah, it was excellent having you on. You're welcome on anytime. If you ever
for sure
have something else you want to talk about, or maybe we'll reach out if we have something to talk about.
Yeah, we can get
Awesome.
get into teleconverters and stuff next time, and whatever other trip you've gone on since. But we'll definitely have you back on.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Yeah, same. And I hope all you did as well. If you want to follow Matt at, I think it's just
Matt Bruce FL.
Matt
Florida.
Bruce FL on Instagram, and then again on his website at birdlifephoto.com. Great photos there, blogs, articles, other medias. Definitely go check it out. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed it. And we're going to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look forward to it.
So if you're new around here, well, you're not new around here, but we always have the guest start the music. So you have to decide when you want the music to start. Matt.
Awesome. I was looking forward to this part. Yeah. I am a fan of the show. So yeah, let's start it right now.
Boom.
Yes. Boom.
There it is.
Here we go.
All right, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe. Do all that other stuff that you're supposed to do on social media, I guess. And until next time.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Aiming for the sky.
Thank you.
Oh, they click in the snap, see
Later.
the birds on the map. Angry Bird Pod flow, flipping through the recap. Kyle and Matt, dropping wings on blast. Tune in next week, this one never in the past. Eagles, hawks, and kestrels flying so divine. Peep the live broadcast, podcast goldmine. Twisting in the air, birds of every kind. Critics gonna chirp, but they ain't ever dying. Zooming in on sparrows, robins in the mist. Matt's got the shutter, Kyle's got the twist. Feathered friends in flight, equipped with the strut. Angry Bird Pod Show, capturing the cut. Oh, they click in the snap, see the birds on the map. Angry Bird Pod flow, flipping through the recap. Kyle and Matt, dropping wings on blast. Tune in next week, this one never in the past. On the twilight, watch the colors flash. Birds of every shade in a photogenic dash. No need for fame, just the birds flying free. Angry Bird Pod Show, bringing all the glee. Oh, they click and they snap, see the birds on the map. Angry Bird Pod flow, flipping through the recap. Kyle and Matt, dropping wings on blast. Tune in next week, this but never in the past. Eagles, hawks, and kestrels flying so divine. Keep the live broadcast, podcast goldmine. Twisting in the air, birds of black, so fine. Brain Matt, dropping wings on blast. Tuning in next week, this but never in the past. In the past. Tuning in next week, this but never in the past. In the past. Zooming in on sparrows, robins in the mist. Matt's got the shutter, Kyle's got the twist. Feathered friends in flight, equipped with the strut. Angry Bird Pod Show, capturing the cut. From dawn to twilight, watch the colors flash. Birds of every shade in a photogenic dash. No need for fame, just the birds flying free. Angry Bird Pod Pod Show, bringing all the glee. Oh, they click and they snap, see the birds on the map. Angry Bird Pod Flow, flipping through the recap. Kyle and Matt, dropping wings on blast. Tune in next week, this one never in the past. From the past. Not shortcut. Not shortcut. Angry Bird Pod Show, bringing all the glee. Bringing all the glee.